My name is Nassine Saabs.
Today, to be totally honest, there's nothing to see except full devastation. So the buildings are almost non-existent. Even it was so hot that even metal contorted so that you can't believe what the building was. But that's what you see, and obviously there will not be any survivors in the area left. They've either escaped that night. And now, as we put up some temporary cell capacity, people are calling each other, so the number of missing went from in the 2000s down to 1,300. And look, our hearts will break beyond repair, perhaps, if that means that many more dead. None of us think that, but we are prepared for many tragic stories. They will find 10 to 20 people per day, probably, until they finish. We're not treating more first, second, and third degree burns because the fire was so perilous that it took lives. It didn't leave survivors.
Wow.
I've heard the siren go many times, never for a fire in my case, but for tsunami warnings and for volcanic eruption warnings and earthquake warnings. We're heartbroken that people couldn't get out or didn't get alerted. We are doing a comprehensive review already. My Attorney General, I asked her to do it, not to find fault in anyone, but to say why this worked and this didn't work.
I'm Assistant Commissioner Roger Brown, the Commanding Officer of the RCMP in New Brunswick. June 4th of this year is a day that will forever be remembered for the heartbreaking loss of 3 of our members, Constable Doug Lash, Dave Ross, and Fabida Javoda. We can never lose sight of the fact that while they were excellent police officers committed to keeping their community safe, they were exemplary husbands, fathers, sons, and brothers. The investigation resulted in one man being guilty of these murders, and also the attempted murders of Constable Eric Dubois and Constable Darlene Gauguin. That individual has now been sentenced for his crimes. I've been asked by reporters for my reaction to that. What can one say? I am glad that the accused accepted responsibility for his horrific actions and pleaded guilty, thus sparing the family of a long emotional trial. But like any crime, you can't undo the damage inflicted on the victims, and in this case, there are many. My heart still goes out to their families, to all who worked alongside them, to the community, and to everyone who has been affected. While Doug, Dave, and Fabrice's absence will continue to be felt by all of us, we will move on. Months later, the support from the community is strong, as citizens stand by us to keep Greater Moncton safe. I can't think of a greater legacy to honor their memory than seeing that wonderful partnership between you and us continue. Keeping our community safe is a collective effort. On behalf of all of us in the RCMP, thank you for all you have done and continue to do to support us.
Aloha. Today marks 1 month since deadly fires devastated Lahaina and other areas of Maui. And since then, we've been working constantly to shelter survivors, deliver supplies and medical care, and locate the missing and reunite them with their families. Over the past several weeks, FEMA's search and rescue teams and our first responders have completed search and rescue efforts in Lahaina. And as of today, there have been a total of 115 fatalities. Our hearts have broken 115 times. The FBI has reported that 66 of our people are potentially still unaccounted for based on calls and emails they've received. And in many cases, they only have names of these individuals on a list and no other information. This is the number that initially was over 3,000 and then dropped to 385 last week, and now, I repeat, is at 66. The Maui Police Department continues to make daily progress on missing persons reports and encourages families to share information about any missing loved ones. Since August 16th, the American Red Cross, the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, and FEMA have relocated over 7,500 displaced survivors from shelters.
I'm Assistant Commissioner Roger Brown, the commanding officer of the RCMP in New Brunswick. June 4th of this year is a day that will forever be remembered for the heartbreaking loss of 3 of our members, Constable Doug Lairs, Dave Ross, and Fabio Jevoda. We can never lose sight of the fact that while they were excellent police officers committed to keeping their community safe, they were exemplary husbands, fathers.
Across the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency and FEMA have relocated over 7,500 displaced survivors from shelters to a total of 29 hotels and hundreds of Airbnbs. 15,931 individuals have filed for FEMA relief. The accommodations I have described will continue to provide meals, casework services, financial recovery resources, and other disaster relief assistance until we're able to move to the next phase of our recovery.
I am the mimic man, I come from down your way and I can do. What can you do? It's Tommy Cooper. Just like that, not like that, just like that, just like that, not like that. I am the mimic man, I come from down your way and I can do. What can you do? It's Frank Spencer. Ooh, Betty, ooh, that's nice, ooh, that's nice, ooh, that's nice. Betty, ooh, that's nice, Betty, ooh, that's nice. Oh, just like that, not like that, just like that, just like that, not like that. I am the mimic man, I come from down your way and I can do. What can you do? It's the Cheeky Girls.
Ooh, boys, cheeky girls. Ooh, girls, cheeky boys.